Back on Sportsbook, Betty and Insight today. Pauly and Teddy. Follow us on Twitter at Pauly Howard at Teddy_covers. Here we go. Big game breakdown. Live on SportsbookReview.com. Noon Pacific Saturday. College football playoff semifinal number 1. It's the Peach Bowl from Atlanta. Washington against Bama. Bama is 13.5, 53 the total. What a matchup this is going to be. Two of the best coaches in college football. Peterson's been dynamite in this role, 5-0 all time in top 10 matchups. First things first, are you surprised when we've seen a lot of under money here?
I'm not surprised by the under money, and I'm not surprised by the Washington money.
Okay.
Going around town over the course of the last couple of weeks, and you know me, Pauly, what do you do when you're around town? All we do is hang out in sports books and talk to other guys who bet. And there's a lot of love for the Washington Huskies here in Las Vegas. There has been, and there continues to be. Now, some of that has to do with Washington's defense, which was real good this season. And when we talk about the under money, I mean, we are talking about two of the best defenses in college football. But there's also been a fair bit of Washington money. And, of course, when you look at the course of the Husky season, you can understand why there's been all that Washington money. They've been a very strong point spread team and able to beat up on a lot of Pac-12 competition.
Yes, but when they struggle in the first quarter, it becomes a big problem. That happened against Arizona. It happened against USC. And I'm not very concerned about... Now, Browning had a terrific season, and he's a hell of a quarterback. But you get him outside of the pocket and make him move. He was atrocious against USC, and he was awful against Colorado in the Pac-12 title game. Now he's going up against a nasty defense with a great pass rush. That could be an issue right off the bat for Washington and Browning.
Well, he's going up against an NFL defense. I mean, make no mistake about it. Alabama has an NFL defense in college. Every player on this defense, or close to every player, will be playing in the NFL. Many of them are going to be stars in the NFL. I mean, this is a special Alabama defense. And one of the things that defense has done, Pauly, all year long, you know, the mainstream sources are going to give you your basics on this game. You guys don't need us to give you the basics. The reality, when it comes to point spread wise, why is Washington taking the money? Why are the wise guys not interested in Alabama? Well, their stats aren't so pretty. Why are their stats not so pretty? Well, because they keep scoring every week non-offensive touchdowns. What happens when team scores non-offensive touchdowns? Well, the defense is out there more. You know, the opposing offense comes right back on the field. The defense, they're going to give up more points, more yards, more first downs than they would have if they had not scored the non-offensive touchdown. And your own offense doesn't get those yardage numbers or those scoring numbers. So the stats lie consistently for teams like Alabama, teams that are capable. And again, they scored, 13 non-offensive TDs, an average of 1 a week, just like they did last year. It's not a fluke. It's not an anomaly. It's a defense and special teams that score points consistently. And the markets, they don't like teams like that. They don't respect teams like that because it doesn't. The cheap scores don't show up well in statistical databases.
Hey, listen, we knew the SEC was garbage this year. It was Alabama and the 13 Dwarfs. How concerned are you if you have a Washington ticket that Colorado was embarrassed and Washington State struggled and looked terrible?
None. Not even a little bit. And because this will happen a lot of times. I mean, let me say this in two different ways. I'm into the theory that the Pac-12 wasn't that good this year. So my concern about Washington would be legitimate regardless of what happened to the other teams. But you can't compare one bowl game to the next. You really can't. You can't say, all right, well, this team stunk. I mean, Washington State was flat. They were a rhythm offense that came in out of rhythm, just like they lost week 1 of the regular season. Colorado was a team that overachieved all year. They finally faced a squad with, strong speed and skill, and the same thing happened to them as happened in the Pac-12 championship game. So those two losses don't stand out to me as being a reason not to like Washington. If you don't like Washington, it's because of Jake Browning. I mean, that's your Alabama case, is Jake Browning, despite the big stats, we saw him in the games where he had to step up in class against elite defenses, and he couldn't do it. The Pac-12 not loaded with defenses like Alabama this year. And the scary thing, of course, is that in the game against Colorado, where the running game was working and there were open receivers because the Buffs had to stack guys in the box to stop the run, to see Browning struggle in that game, to me, that's the biggest concern that Washington backers have to have, not the other Pac-12 teams have struggled so far.
You give up 11.8 points per game. You allowed 0 touchdowns in the month of November. It's kind of a home game. You just played on that field where you beat Florida in the SEC title game. And I guess it's not going to be a distraction, or they left them behind with the bus for the second time. But Kiffin taking the Florida Atlantic job. I mean, this offense doesn't get enough credit. What the job Kiffin's been able to do running that fast up-tempo offense with so many weapons.
Sure, and Alabama's defense gets a ton of pub, and the quarterback gets a ton of pub. What about the wide receivers?
Yep.
I mean, this team might have the best receiving core in the country. You know, Nick Saban has recruited at a level that nobody else in college football is capable of recruiting at, and the Alabama roster shows that. I'll just leave it like that.
Hey guys, for the full video, go to sbrpicks.com.
That's right, the 8th annual SBR Forum Bash will be held at the breathtaking all-inclusive Hard Rock Hotel in Punta Cana on Super Bowl weekend. Join Natalie Rydstrom and the Odds Couple as they mingle with SBR pros and have fun under the sun. Stay tuned for video coverage of Bash activities, including a $5,000 poker tournament sponsored by uwager.eu. Only on SBR, your sportsbook authority since 1999.